What's up, guys, and welcome back to Wake Up Entertainment. So, at the Senzo meyiwa trial, there is a disagreement between the ballistic expert that is representing the state and the ballistic expert that is representing the defense. The cause of the disagreement here is about the interpretations of the breaks when it comes to counting the marks that are being found on the bullet. So here the expert of the defense is discrediting everything that the state's expert is saying.
You remember that we requested our expert who's present here in court to have access to the exhibits that you examined, including the test bullets and the firearm, the exhibit firearm in this case.
That's correct, my lord.
Now, having consulted with our expert, and he will come and tell this court that what you purported to be matches, be it the 6, the 5, and the 2, are not matches because the application of CMS says the matching must be consecutive, that there should not be a break.
There should
When
not
you
be
count,
a break.
Yes, when you count the striations.
No, that's not how it works. The consecutive matching strike, you have your consecutive matching strike. As long as your matching strikes are in one group and they are matching, there can be a break as long as your break is exactly the same on both sides.
And when he tested, he observed breaks that are either available on the exhibit bullet on the left and not breaks on the right. Therefore, it cannot be a match because in that sense, when there's a break, you restart your counting again to come to a finding of a match.
No, that's not how it works, my lord.
And that when he
Sorry, but you must tell the court how it works. It's not enough to tell the witness or Mr. Ramosipidi that that is not how it works. The court must understand how it works,
My lord.
according to you, because he is saying it's supposed to be the way he says it should be, and you say, no, that is not how it works. Yes.
That's
So
correct, my lord. That's not how it. There will always be a break. If you have the striations, you can't have all the striations being more or less joined. Because if you're saying there must not be a break, it means there mustn't be anything that divides it.
Yes.
So if it's a striation line, there's a break in between, there's another one, there's a break, there's another one. So there's always be a break, but your breaks must be equal on both items.
So right from the beginning, there is a firearm that was taken from Tobisi Mngube. So these ballistic experts that are representing the state, they then fired a shot using that firearm, then took a bullet from that firearm that was taken from Tobisi Mngube. So now these state witnesses, they are now comparing this bullet from Tobisi Mngube to the bullet that was found at the Khumalo house. So in essence, the state is trying to find a match to say that this firearm from Tobisi Mngube is exactly the one that fired this bullet that was found at the Khumalo house. But now there is a disagreement on the interpretation of those results that they found. The state found what they found and they presented it as their evidence to say that this guy in Tobisi Mngube is guilty. But the defense now has brought in their own expert. So this is exactly what is going on. Imagine trying to match two lines drawn with a specific pattern. The police expert says, look, these two lines have several tiny bumps in the exact same order, so they must have been made by the same tool. Now the defense says, wait a minute. Our expert looked at those two lines, those lines, and they found that in some places the bumps don't match perfectly. There are breaks in the pattern. So according to the rules of matching, if there is a break where the bumps don't align, you can't say it's a definite match. So this is when now the state expert came in and said, that's not right. You always have tiny gaps between the bumps. What matters is that when you do see the bumps, they're in the same order on both lines. If there is a break where there are no bumps at all, that's okay, as long as that empty space is the same on both lines. It just means that part of the tool might not have touched the surface. So this is the point of the argument on these lines. The defense is essentially saying that, come on, if you look at these lines, on their bumps, there are gaps in those bumps. So these bumps are not like perfectly aligning because there are these breaks in there. But the state is arguing back, and saying, no, it doesn't matter as long as they're in the same order on both lines. So this is the point of contention that is occurring in court. As they were arguing there, that is exactly what they were trying to say. It's about the interpretation of those lines to find a match. So the disagreement is about how important these breaks are. The defense expert seems to think that any break in the matching pattern means it's not a match. The police expert believes that some breaks are normal and don't rule out a match, as long as the matching parts are in the same order and the empty spaces also line up. It's like arguing, whether a song is the same if a few notes are missing in both versions. Is it still the same song or is it different? Now this becomes a huge challenge. If experts start disagreeing amongst themselves, what should a judge do in such a scenario? Because the judge is not a ballistic expert. The judge is now being put in a very difficult position because he is now dealing with complex technical fields like ballistics. Because essentially we have put our trust into these experts for them to just give us a conclusion and say, is there a match or not? Not for them to start disagreeing amongst themselves. So here, what should the judge do? The judge Ratha here should question both these experts on their reasons behind their conclusions. Like what specific data or observations or methodologies did they use? So another thing that Judge Ratha can actually do here, it is to consider the qualifications and experience of the experts. So this is like a credibility assessment. The judge will be assessing these experts' credentials, training, and experience, or any potential biases. Are they recognized in their field? Do you have any published relevant research that you've done? Have you testified in any similar cases before? Because if you have testified in similar cases before, then at least we can trust your opinion. But the most important part now when it comes to such a draw, such an argument amongst these experts, I think Judge Ratha should just ask these experts to provide detailed reports on their findings, and provide a basis for their opinions, a scientific basis, to support what they are saying. Or another one is for Judge Ratha, just to inquire about the generally accepted standards and best practices within the field of ballistics identification. Do the experts' methodologies align with these standards? If the state's methodologies align, then the state witness is correct. If the defense methodologies align, then the defense expert is correct. But then again, now the burden of proof, it lies with the state. You know what I'm saying? So the prosecution bears the burden of proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. If the expert's testimony from the state side, their evidence is contradictory and doesn't lead to a clear and convincing conclusion, then they have to provide other corroborative evidence. And this evidence on its own, it cannot be relied on. The defense, obviously, on that side will have done a great job, to undermine the credibility of the state's evidence. But in summary, this is a tough one for the judge, unfortunately. But on the other hand, it's also an easy one. You can just throw the ball back to the state and just request them to provide more evidence. Sometimes it's simple like that. There's no need for Judge Ratha to just crack his head and try to understand ballistics. You just throw back the ball to the state. Give me more evidence. Show me more. If you show me more, you win. You fail to show me more, then you lose. It's like that. Tell me what you think in the comment section, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.